So today we are talking about what will end religion. Before we do, I want to say happy Pride Month, everyone. For those who don't know, I do identify as non-binary, and regardless if I did or not, I would be supporting the LGBTQ community and all that. It's very important in Hyperionism that everyone is welcome, everyone is supported, and everyone should be celebrated regardless of, gender, sex, age, race, anything like that. One thing that I want to say real quick, though, that is on today's topic and relating to what I've been seeing lately, I've been seeing a lot of people post about Pride Month, like, oh, I support LGBTQ, blah, blah, blah. And that's great. That's awesome. But I've been seeing other posts saying, I support LGBTQ, all races, all genders, all religions. Now, all races, all genders, LGBTQ, all that, that's great. That's fantastic. But all religions should not be thrown in there. And I see that happening more and more, is that people are counting any criticism against religion as being hateful. And that is a very big mistake, because religion, as far as at least mainstream and the literalist interpretation of religion, is itself extremely hateful. So you cannot be against hate while also supporting hateful systems. This is Karl Popper's paradox of tolerance, and it leads to and perpetuates more hate. And so you cannot be both pro-LGBTQ and pro-mainstream literalist religion, because mainstream literalist religion, depending on which one, but ones like Christianity, say that homosexuals should, if not be killed, at least be burned and tortured for eternity in hell for being homosexual. And so you cannot be pro-homosexual and pro-religion, because that's being pro-homosexual and anti-homosexual at the same time. So I want to point that out and make it very, very clear that, yeah, pro-LGBTQ, supporting all genders, all races, all that, that's awesome, that's fantastic. But lumping in religion in there is a big mistake, because religion is sexist, homophobic, misogynistic, and all these different things. So you cannot support one and the other. It is a contradiction, and that really needs to be made clear, because I'm seeing more and more people fall for that. And we're just going to have a world that continues to perpetuate hate as long as hateful systems are supported. And it's made somehow taboo to speak out against that. That's not okay at all. Check out my channel. I talk a lot about RTS, or religious trauma syndrome, and the huge amounts of abuse that it does to children, and carries on into adulthood, mimics PTSD, CPTSD, and all that. Anyway, so we're going to start today's main topic. I just wanted to point that out real quick, because it's something that needs to be said, and something that as we celebrate acceptance, we don't want to accept hateful ideologies. And by the way, I am working on a new book, and I'm very excited about it. It's going to be extremely important. And I just want to say right away that anyone who supports on Patreon at the time of the release of the book is going to get their names in the credits. So if you want to support my work, that's a great way to do it. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video as well. So let's talk about this. We're going to talk about what will end religion. And the reason why I want to discuss this is because I was looking at an article the other day, and this article is by Osho. And so I want to talk about this for two reasons. One, it's just a good article to riff off of and discuss, but also because a lot of people I know who watch my work sometimes ask my opinion on Osho and all that. So I want to use this as a time to also point out the fallacies and things that are wrong in certain ways of thinking, and also the good things in there as well. So as we take a look at this is an article on medium.com, The Fundamental Mistake of the Religions, by Osho. And Osho says, I am against all the so-called religions because they are not religions at all. I am for religion, but not for the religions. The true religion can only be one, just like science. You don't have a Islamic physics, a Hindu physics, a Christian physics. That would be nonsense. But that's what the religious have done. They've made the whole earth a madhouse. A couple things here. The spirit of what Osho is saying, I agree with. Mainstream religions have made the earth a madhouse. And essentially what he's saying is that true religion is one and united, and doesn't have to do with all these madhouse ideas and ideologies. So in the spirit of that, I agree. However, I would not call what is emerging that will replace all religion, I would not call it or identify that as a religion. Now, at this point, it just depends on what you define as a religion. I define religions as things that are based on faith or intuition rather than reason. Now, intuition is important. I don't want you to think that we reject intuition, not at all, but we're guided by reason. Intuition is powerful, but it has to be guided by reason, because you can come to some crazy ideas, because intuition is very similar to dreamlike information. You can get great information, but it's very scrambled and communicated in a non-linear way, and so you have to be able to organize it, filter it, and put everything in its place. So anyway, for the spirit of what this individual is saying, I agree, but I do not. In Hyperionism, we call what we are a knowledge system, not a religion, because we are a synthesis of all previous ideas into a rational knowledge, acquiring rational knowledge about the true nature of ourselves and existence. It doesn't have anything to do with what is normally practiced as religious faith. Now, also another thing that I quickly want to say is that he says that the true religion can only be one, just like science. So this is also kind of fallacious. And I guess what I want to get across is that this individual is intuitive and says a lot of intuitive things, but one can't be intuitive only. One also needs to be rational. So the spirit of what this individual says is often right. But from a rational perspective, there's a lot of errors. So for example, the true religion can only be one, just like science. Science is not one. Science is extremely divided and fractured. So there's classical mechanics, quantum mechanics, relativity, and all these systems disagree with each other. They all say something, for example, they all say something different about gravity. So science is not united. Science itself is very divided, and science has been divided throughout the years. And if you look, most people imagine that science progresses linearly, just like forward steps towards getting closer and closer to truth in a linear sort of progressive fashion. That's not the case at all. You can check out Thomas Kuhn's book called what's it called? The Nature of Scientific Revolution, or something like this. Anyway, he's the one who introduced the idea of paradigm shifts, in which science is engaged in periods of orthodoxy and revolution, in which there is an established viewpoint, and then there is an internal contradiction, which a new viewpoint emerges and collapses the status quo, and then takes over via revolutionary means. So you have these. It's not a linear progression. It's about paradigm shifts, or way of viewing that reality that replaces the other, and it is not about linear progression. So anyway, just want to point that out. Science is not united, and it's important to realize that, because some people start treating science like it's this religion where it's this perfect march towards truth, which it is not. Science has many flaws because it's not based on reason, it's based on empiricism. But let's continue. So if science is one, then why would the science of the inner not be one too? So let's imagine science is not one, but what they're saying is that the science of the inner, why should the science of the inner not be one too? And that's correct. The science of the inner should be one. And in Hyperionism, what we use to rationally study the nature of existence is ontological mathematics. That's why I have a book called Ontological Mathematics, The Science of the Future. And this is how one can use mathematics to study the domain of mind, study the inner domain. And it is what one might call a physics of mind. And it's a way that one can study it with mathematical precision, beyond even which of the scientific materialist physical interpretation of reality. And so, yes, this individual is incorrect in saying that there should be basically a science of the inner that is one. I would not, however, call this religion. I think that it's should not be called religion. So science explores the objective world, and religion explores the subjective world. Their work is the same, just their direction and dimension are different. So again, I would agree with this. I just would not use the word religion, because we want to go beyond. We want to be very precise with what we're talking about. So science explores the objective world. Yes, it does. Religion explores the subjective world. Now, there's also, the thing is that, again, Osho is not a philosopher, and terms get kind of, when one talks about subjectivity, it becomes a little vague. The Hyperion source just put out a video on subjectivity. You should go watch it and check it out. So you can talk about subjectivity in different ways. You can talk about subjectivity as in like the subjective experience, the phenomenological experience that one has. And that's what phenomenology is. Phenomenology is the study of the a priori structures of subjective experience. In other words, just the study of subjective experience. But mind itself, so you have physical, supposed physical matter, and which some might call the external, and then you have the internal, what some might call the internal, which is mind. Now, mind itself has a subjective and objective side to it. The objective side to mind is mathematical frequency, the form, and it comes in the form of sinusoidal waveforms, and we can study the form. But every sinusoidal wave is paired with a content. It has a quality associated with it, and that means a subjective experience. So even when it comes to mind, there's an objective side and a subjective side. There's the formal side and then the content side. There is what is the thing structurally, and how one experiences the thing. Kind of like I always give the example of a rainbow. A blind person could know a blind person could know everything about the structure of a rainbow, but not what it is like to experience a rainbow. Now, the same thing can be applied to mind. One can explore the structure of mind, and one can also experience mind as well. There's two different aspects here. So I guess what I want to say, I guess the good thing about looking at this particular, and the main point I want to get across, well, not the main point, but one good point to get across in looking at this article, is how you can look at an individual like Osho, who is on the right track intuitively, but because they are not rationally guided, you can make a lot of mistakes. And one might think, oh, well, what's the big deal? It's just a different word, or they used subjective instead of, inner, or talking about mind. These seem like little issues, but they can lead to really big problems. One wants to be precise. If one wants to be precise, like science, one must be precise with their wording when it comes to the inner, when it comes to the domain of mind, when it comes to the domain of pure frequency, the domain of energy. One must be very precise. And using the wrong terms can lead to very big problems. This is why it's important to be rationally directing your intuition. Intuition is important, but it must be rationally directed. So the individual continues, in a more enlightened age, there will be no such thing as religion. Okay, right. So let me just continue here. In a more enlightened age, there will be no such thing as religion. There will only be two sciences, objective science and subjective science. Objective science deals with things, and subjective science deals with being. Now, this is 100% right. I mean, I would take some issues with some of the wording, but for the main gist of it, this is completely right. So with some little asterisks here or there, but for the main portion it is, in a more enlightened age, there will be no such thing as religion. Absolutely correct. And there will only be two sciences, basically the science of the outer and the physical, and then the science of the inner and mind. And that is correct. Ontological mathematics is the science of mind. However, it subsumes the science of the physical within it, because the science of the mind ultimately gives rise to the science of the physical, because the physical is just an aspect of mind. All reality is mind, and the physical is just one aspect of it. So if you study the science of mind, you'll ultimately get to the science of the physical, because one is just a reflection of the other, and you'll ultimately have a better understanding of the physical. So to be more precise, there will only be one science, which will be ontological mathematics, that subsumes within itself and goes beyond physical science. So it will also be, so really what it will be, there will only be one science with two aspects to it. But I'm being kind of nitpicky, but it's important to be precise, especially when one is talking about things like ontological mathematics and a proposed science. One must be precise. But yes, that's absolutely correct. So in the future, there will be no such thing as religion, and there will just be the system of a Hyperion knowledge system that includes ontological mathematics, and that is the subject and tool that will be used to study the rational nature of existence, both mind and space-time as well, both frequency and space-time aspects. So it's but this individual continues and says, that's why I am against the religions, but not against religion. But that religion is still in its birth pangs. So do you see where the wording starts to get kind of confusing here? And this is why one has to be precise, because up here, the individual says, in a more enlightened age, there will be no such thing as religion. There will only be two sciences. And then but then that's why I'm against the religion, but not against religion. But that religion is still in its birth pangs. So in an enlightened age, will there be religion or not? Will there be no religion? Or will there be a new religion? So this individual is being kind of contradictory here. Up here, he says there will be no such thing as religion. But down here, they're saying, well, there will be this unified religion. And I get the spirit of what this person is saying. What this person, is essentially saying, well, there's going to be no such thing as the religions of how we think of them today. There will be this new religion but you see where at a certain point, you should just not call it religion anymore because it gets confusing like this. It is a system of knowledge which we understand where we are, what we are, and why we are here. We understand the energetic and frequency and mental aspect of existence, and we can know it precisely. We don't have to have this idea of religious faith or anything like that, and it just becomes confusing to talk about in such a way. So that's why I say I'm against the religion, against religions, but not against religion. But that religion is still in its birth pangs. All the old religions will do everything in their power to kill it, to destroy it. It's absolutely true. Because the birth of a science of consciousness will be the death of the all so-called religions which have been exploiting humanity for thousands of years. So I agree with this completely. The birth of a science of consciousness will be heavily resisted by all old religions and do everything in their power to kill it and destroy it. And because all these so-called religions have been exploiting humanity for thousands of years. Absolutely right. However, again, it's getting too confusing when one is calling here the birth of the science of consciousness as the kind of new religion. Like, oh, the new religion is the science of consciousness. But then up here saying, well, there's going to be no such thing as religion, only two kinds of sciences. So again, it's just imprecision that might seem trivial, but is actually not trivial when you're trying to talk about something that's extremely precise. Because imprecision can lead to religion and misunderstanding and faith-based positions. And but absolutely right in that a science of consciousness will be emerging, and that is ontological mathematics, is a science of consciousness. So at least in the form of the science of the a priori structures of consciousness and how science consciousness emerges. So what will happen to their churches, synagogues, temples, their rabbis? It's big business. And these people are not going to easily allow the true religion to be born. But the time has come in human history where the grip of the old religions is loosening. So I agree with all this. Man is only formally paying respect to Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, but basically anybody who has any intelligence is no longer interested in all that rubbish. 100% agree. People are only paying respect to these things, but anyone with any intelligence is no longer interested in all that rubbish. Agree completely. So again, like what I want you guys to take away is that I'm not completely against this individual by any means. Says a lot of great things. The only issue is imprecision in not integrating reason, because I highly doubt. Remember, I read these articles pretty much for the first time with you guys. What I do is I skim them. I skim them first, briefly, but I really pay attention and take them in basically the first time besides that skimming with you guys. So I highly doubt that this individual is going to talk about reason. I highly doubt it. Maybe they do. We'll see. But I highly doubt it. And that's a big problem. We have to emphasize the importance of reason, because that is what liberates humanity and will ultimately, if one just transitions from religious faith to intuitive mysticism, it's just going to be, it'll be better than mainstream religion, but it's going to be its own problem. You're going to have people believing in crazy, wild ideas. Like a lot of people who subscribe to these intuitive, mystical ideas are, like flat earthers, or believe in like timeline hopping, or, all these different very odd ideas that are just religious. They're it's contacting ascended masters to guide them to the fifth dimensional tetra plane of consciousness. All these things that are ultimately just religious in nature. And that's why, like, this person is saying great things. I love what this person is saying, but you have to emphasize reason, or else intuition can lead people into a realm of insanity, which it often does. You just have to look at a lot of New Age beliefs. Andromeda says, may all hateful ideologies cease to exist. Hail New Terra. Absolutely, 100%. Anyone who's intelligent is no longer interested in all that rubbish. He may go to the synagogue and to the church and to the mosque for other reasons, but those reasons are not religious. Those reasons are social. It pays to be seen in the synagogue. It is respectable, and there is no harm. It's just like joining the Rotary Club or the Lions Club. And that needs to be ended. We need to take this idea away. We need to stop giving power to religions by people who aren't interested in religion, but still supporting religion. Like I kind of said in the beginning, those people who are like, oh, I'm pro LGBTQ, pro all races, pro all genders, which is fucking awesome and phenomenal. But then pro all religion. No, stop right there. You cannot support a hateful ideology and then support all those things that you just listed. And people don't know how hateful and toxic these religions are. People have no idea. And that's why we need to raise awareness about it. So these religions are old clubs which have a religious jargon around them, but look a little deeper and you will find they are all hocus pocus with no substance inside. Agree completely. So I am for religion, but that religion will not be a repetition of any religion that you are acquainted with. So again, it's not a new religion that will end religion. It is a knowledge system, a system that incorporates all previous systems synthesized together into one that is beyond them all, led by logic and reason, and acknowledging and utilizing the importance of intuition and being able to understand the nature of existence beyond even the rigor of science. So this religion will be a rebellion against all these religions. Agree completely. So, as long as we replace the word with religion with what, Hyperionism is a knowledge system, I agree with the sentiment here. This will be a rebellion against all these religions. And I love that idea too, because see, I like this about Osho, at least from what I'm reading here, is that Osho's not being like, oh, well, we should accept all religions and love all religions. No, Osho is saying that this is a rebellion against all the religions, that all other religions will resist it, that it will be the death of all the religions, and that it will not carry their work further. It will stop their work completely and start a new work, the real transformation of man. So again, like you can see, I am very much on board with the spirit of what this individual is talking about. There's just little things here and there that are important. Even the use of the word, the transformation of man, I would say the transformation of humanity, because using man is further perpetuating a gender bias. And I'm sure this individual probably doesn't mean to do that, but it's important to be precise, and with things, the words you use are important. So now here's something that I'm going to kind of disagree with now, though. So you ask me, what is the most fundamental error of all these religions? There are many errors, and they are fundamental, but first I would like to talk about the most fundamental. The most fundamental error of all the religions is that none of them was courageous enough to accept that there are things which we don't know. They all pretend to know everything. They all pretend to know all. They were all omniscient. Why did this happen? Because if you accept that you are ignorant about something, then doubt arises in the minds of your followers. If you are ignorant about something, who knows? You may be ignorant about other things also. What is the guarantee? To make it foolproof, they have all pretended, without exception, that they are omniscient. Now, so far, I agree with all this. Very, very true. So, the most beautiful thing about science is that it does not pretend to be omniscient. Now, I can tell right away that Osho has not really looked into... A lot of people have this mistake, is that they leave mainstream religion and then they go right away to materialist science and don't realize that materialist science is really just becoming a new mainstream religion. because scientific materialism is predicated on materialism and empiricism, the belief in the knowledge of the senses, belief in the data acquired by senses, which are fallible, and the idea and belief that all reality is material and only matter is a bias that is toxic and runs rampant through science. So it says science does not pretend to be omniscient. It accepts its human limits. It knows how much it knows, and it knows there is much more to know. And the greatest scientists know of something even deeper. The known, they know the boundaries of the knowable. They will know sooner or later. They are on the way. But only the greatest scientists like Albert Einstein will be aware of the third category, the unknowable, which will never be known. Nothing can be done about it because the ultimate mystery cannot be reduced to knowledge. Okay, so huge, big disagreement here with Osho, and this shows why one must place reason above all and not intuition here. Because first of all, this praise of science, much better than religion, but science itself is fractured and full of dogma, riddled with dogma. They make all these metaphysical claims about reality while rejecting metaphysics, but yet making their own metaphysical claims, and riddled with logical fallacies having to do with consciousness and evolution, such as random mutation and the emergence of consciousness from material structures, all of which is absolutely fallacious. Evolution is actually based on the dialectical transformation of mental energy. So dialectics, not randomness. That's very important. Evolution is based on dialectics, not randomness. And consciousness cannot possibly emerge from the combination of materialist structures in the way that it is defined in modern science. Like that's a literal impossibility. And I mean that literally. People use the word literally so wrong these days that I'm literally using literally the way it should be used. It is impossible. It's not highly improbable. It's not like, oh well, no. It entails a logical contradiction. So because you can't have a mind-independent substance give rise to mind. That's impossible. It's logically impossible. So, okay, yeah. So, but also I agree with nothing can. There is the unknowable, the thing that which will never be known. So here's the thing. I don't know. I'm not extremely familiar with Osho's views. But the vast reality can be known. Reality is a system of reason. It's a system of reason that is that is evolving. And so, well, let me just go a little further to explain what I mean. So, we are part of existence. How can we know existence' ultimate mystery? So this is right. This is why you need to be guided by reason, not intuition, because this is just so wrong. Look at this sentence. We are part of existence. How can we know existence's ultimate mystery? Because we're part of existence. We are existence. So the idea here is we are part of existence. How can we know existence's ultimate mystery? Know thyself. The Greek aphorism inscribed in the entrance at the temple of Delphi. Know thyself. A longer version is know thyself and you will know the universe and the gods. You can know existence because you are existence. We are existence, and we have the ability to know ourselves. We are the substance of which existence is, and therefore we can know ourselves. Something would be unknowable if there was something that was apart from us. But there is nothing that is apart from us. There is nothing that is apart from us where there is some unbridgeable gap. There are no unbridgeable gaps. All gaps are bridgeable. We can know everything there is to know about the formal structure of reality. Now, I want to make a caveat here that there are two aspects to reality. There's the formal structural aspect, and then there's the experiential aspect. We can have full and total knowledge of the formal aspect of existence. And then the experiential aspect is just the experience of it. It doesn't have to do with knowledge. It has to do with experience. Knowledge and experience are two different things, and they are each have different applications. rational structure is the medium through which we can have experience. So when it comes to knowledge, we can know everything about the formal structure of reality. So in Hyperionism, we know the big picture of reality. We know the big picture of existence. We know what we are, where we are, why we're here, how existence can be, how it operates. Now, that doesn't mean we know everything. There is a lot to figure out, but we know the big picture. We know the essential structure of existence. It's kind of like if you imagine that reality were like a puzzle. In Hyperionism, we have all the edge pieces figured out. Now, there's still a lot of pieces to put together, but we know what the picture is and we know what the goal is. That's kind of what it's like. We still have to figure out where all the pieces go, and there's still a lot to do. There's still a lot of exciting things to do. And I don't want to give the impression where it says like, oh, Hyperionism knows everything. No, it doesn't. There's a lot that we don't know. There's a lot that needs to be figured out. And that's part of the fun. That's part of the exhilarating experience of being able to acquire more knowledge. If we knew everything, we'd be done. But we have the big picture of existence figured out. We know what we are, where we are, why we're here. We know this with mathematical and rational precision. So, big disagreement here with this idea of unknowing. And this is the problem with Hyperionism is a knowledge system. And it's all about knowing. I mean, there's more aspects to it than that, but knowledge is a primary component. So it continues, we have come very late. There is nobody present as an eyewitness, and there's no way for us to, all right, so yeah, all right. We have come very late. There was nobody present as an eyewitness, and there is no way for us to separate ourselves completely from existence and become just an observer. We live, we breathe, we exist with existence. We cannot separate ourselves from it. The moment we separate, we are dead. And without being separate, just a watcher, with no involvement, with no attachment, you cannot know the ultimate mystery. Hence, it is impossible. There will remain something always unknowable. Yes, it can be felt, but it cannot be known. Perhaps it can be experienced in different things, not like knowledge. There is so much wrong with this paragraph that I could spend hours talking about it. So I'm not. It's one of those things where it's so wrong, I don't even know where to begin. So there was nobody present as an eyewitness. You don't need to see things to gain knowledge. That's empiricism. And that's the main fallacy of science, is that it rests on empiricism. Observation does not provide one with knowledge. Observation provides one with an experience. Observation provides one with a filtered, modified, subjective, segmented, divided, fractured view. Observation is a extremely it's impossible to come to knowledge through observation. You come to knowledge through thought, through rational thinking, because this is a reality of mind. And we don't need to be present anywhere as an eyewitness to have knowledge. And there is no way for us to separate ourselves completely from existence and just become an observer. Yeah, there is no way to separate ourselves completely from existence because we are existence. We don't exist with existence. We are existence. So he's looking at it in this very weird way, as if there is existence and then we are this kind of portion of it that if we want to have knowledge of it, for some reason he thinks we need to separate ourselves from it and observe it. This is what I'm thinking here, is that Osho is very infected with both an intuitive mindset and a scientific mindset. See, Osho is prioritizing intuition and empiricism. Reason is not playing into it. And that is the problem, is this individual is obsessed with separating an observation. This is the fallacy of science. It separates itself from the system, and that's why it comes up with fallacious ideas, because we are part of the system and we have to take ourselves into account. And one way to understand this is that a scientist is a mind. That's what a scientist is. It's a mind that is, through its mind, coming up with a theory about existence, but excluding itself from its own theory. because it denies mind. It's a mind that goes, all right, I'm going to observe material existence, but mind doesn't exist. And so, because in materialism, mind has no primary existence. Mind is just sort of this epiphenomenon, an illusion that has no real effect. And that's a hilarious thing. You have these scientists using their minds to study reality, while at the same time going, mind has no effect, it's just an illusion, and we can completely disregard it within our calculations. No, that's a fallacy. And so Osho has sort of taken this idea of observation as if separating oneself would lead to knowledge. Separating oneself doesn't lead to knowledge. You incorporate yourself within the structure. You don't want to separate yourself from it. If you could, so Osho is completely inverted. Osho says we can't have knowledge because we can't separate ourselves from existence. That's false. If we could separate ourselves from existence, we would not be able to have knowledge. We can have knowledge precisely because we are incorporated in existence as existence itself, and thus can know ourselves. And really, the entire process of reality and evolution is about reality coming to know itself through us, because we are reality waking up to what it is as we study ourselves, but we have to incorporate ourselves into it. So much wrong here. So you can see, again, I'm just pointing out the things that I agree with and the things that I disagree with, and why it's important to be precise and use reason rather than intuition and empiricism. So he continues, you fall in love. Can you say you know love? It seems to be a totally different phenomenon. You feel it. If you try to know it, perhaps it will evaporate in your hands. You cannot reduce it to knowing. You cannot make it an object of knowledge because it is not a mind phenomenon. It has something to do with your heart. Yes, your heartbeat knows it, but that is a totally different kind of knowledge. The intellect is incapable of approaching the heartbeats. So much wrong with this. So the first half of the article, spot on, except I disagree with the terminology. This now is showing you, though, why it's important, why these intuitive ways of thinking are incorrect. So what about love? You say you can know love. It seems to be a totally different phenomenon. So what about love? Can we know love? Yes, we can know love. Essentially, what we can do is ultimately understand the mathematical operation of love. We can do that. There is a formula that describes love. That is different from experiencing love. So you have to be very, very precise between knowledge, the knowledge of love, or the experience of love. Yes, you cannot have knowledge of the experience of love because you can't have knowledge of experience. It's a different category. You can have knowledge of what love is because that is knowledge of the formal structure of existence. So you're getting these category errors where Osho is basically saying, you can't know this experience, therefore you can't know knowledge. You can't have knowledge of an experience because it's not an object of knowledge, it's an object of experience, but it can be experienced. You can have knowledge of love. Yes, you can. You can have knowledge of love. You just can't have knowledge of the experiential aspect of love because it's not an object of knowledge, it's an object of experience. So if you try to know it, perhaps it will evaporate in your hands. You can't reduce it to knowing. You cannot make it an object of knowledge because it is not a mind phenomenon. So he's very confused with the difference between experience and knowledge. We can have knowledge of love and we can have experience of love. We can't have knowledge of experience and we can't have experience of knowledge. We have knowledge of knowledge and we experience experience. So, but there is something more than heart in you, your being, your life source. Just as you know through the mind, which is the most superficial part of your individuality. See, again, extremely wrong. Mind is not the most superficial part of your individuality. It is what guarantees your individuality. The reason why you are an individual is because of the laws of thought and the laws of mind, guaranteeing that you are an individual, unique node of existence that has particularized itself from an absolute identity. So it is mind and the structure of thought that guarantees your individuality. That does not mean that experience is not important. I am not saying, and so life is just this mechanical, robotic thing and lifeless and dull. No. One just has to acknowledge the two aspects. The formal structure, which is an object of knowledge, and the experience of existence. And that's why in Hyperionism, this is a dual aspect monism. There's one thing that has two aspects. And there's a huge confusion And you might say, well, what's the big deal? Isn't the general idea of what this individual is saying right? No, it's not. It's very imprecise. And you don't want to perpetuate the idea that you can't have knowledge, and the idea that that mind is the most superficial part of your individuality. This is what led to religion. What Osho is talking about is why religion exists. This is the kind of mindset that leads to religion. So and it's just, look at this. There's so much contradiction, but there's something more than heart in you, your being, your life source. Just as you know through the mind, which is the most super part of your individuality, you know something from your heart, which is deeper than your mind. So can you know it or can you not? Can you know it? It's just a different kind of knowing. It's heart knowing rather than mind knowing. This is all this is all vague and all intuition. You can't have a science of consciousness, like Osho speaks about this, with this vague, incorrect imprecision. It's riddled with contradictions and riddled with imprecision and riddled with just flat out being incorrect. The mind cannot go into it. It's too deep for it. But behind the heart, still deeper, is your being, your very life source. The life source also has a way of knowing. What mind knows, we call it knowledge. What heart knows, we call it love. And what being knows, we call it meditation. But all three speak different languages, which are not translatable into each other. And the deeper you go, the more difficult it becomes to translate, because at the very center of your being, there is nothing but silence. Now, how to translate silence into sound? The moment you translate silence into sound, you have destroyed it. Even music cannot translate it. Perhaps music comes closest, but still it is sound. Like this is what Osho said earlier about religions, about it all being rubbish. This is all rubbish. This is just, and I know a lot of people are going to like this sort of thing. I know a lot of people who watch my channel are going to be like, well, this is awesome. I love this so much. Please understand how problematic this is. This is just religion on another level. It's going from emotion to intuition. There is nothing wrong with intuition, but it must be guided by reason. So here's the idea. Osho came to this idea through intuition. Like all these things that this person is talking about. He came to this through intuition. That's fine. That's great. But now what one has to do is take this, right? Like say, take this whole chunk here that I have highlighted, and now one must examine it with reason, order it, translate it, and filter it so that it is precise and is rationally coherent, instead of being in this intuitive, incorrect, imprecise rubbish. But all three speak different languages, which are not translatable into each other. And the deeper you go, the more difficult it becomes to translate. At the center of your being, there's nothing but silence. How do you translate silence into sound? The moment you this is just all vague nonsense. Well, so like in Hyperionism, we wouldn't be talking this way. It's about reality is a dual aspect monism, which means there is one substance. That one substance is pure frequency. And pure frequency is rational in that this is a reality of reason, and this can be understood through ontological mathematics. So long story short, what the ultimate substance of a reality is mathematical sinusoids. These mathematical sinusoids have two aspects to them. They have the structure. You can understand the structure as sort of like the equation. It's the formal structure, the logical structure that allows for its existence. And then there is the content, which is the experiential experience of it. Every sinusoid is, as a structure, is paired with a content with an experience. And we can use Fourier transforms to transform frequency functions into space-time functions, which is how mind relates to matter. And we know that experience is important. It's how we, it's a critical aspect to existence, and it's how we as minds experience reality. But the process of thinking, when it comes to abstract thinking, is facilitated by the aspect of rational structure. Now, do you see? Now, some people who watch my channel, if you're new, you probably won't really understand what I said. If you watch my videos, then yeah, you will. But either way, regardless, the point is that is precise. That is precision. And it is talking about how there are different aspects to reality. There's the structural aspect, which one can know. And then there is the content, which deals with experience, that one experiences. This can be translated in the form of a mental experience or in the form of an experience in the domain of space-time, physical reality. And we can know the ways in which they operate. Do you see how this is the way that we need to approach things to transcend religion? We don't want to be talking about there's 3 different languages, and if you think about music and call it knowledge and love and meditation, what the mind knows, what the heart knows. No, this is rubbish. This will lead to more religions. And again, I know a lot of people who watch my channel are going to like this kind of thing. Please understand how problematic this is. If you are against religion, this sort of thing is just religion on a different level. So poetry does not come quite as close as music, because words, howsoever beautiful, are still words. They don't have life in them. They are dead. How can you translate life into something dead? Yes, perhaps the words you may have a glimpse here and there, but between the words, between the lines, not in the words, in the lines. This is the most fundamental error of all religions, that they have deceived humanity by blatantly posing as if they know all. All right, so I hope that I have gotten across to you enough how problematic this is. All right, so I agree with the first part that Osho was talking about. There's a new system emerging, that it will be an end to religions, that religions will resist it, and that it will be a science of consciousness. All that I agree with 100%. This is Hyperionism and the system of ontological mathematics being a tool of Hyperionism to study the rational nature of existence. That's all true, and I agree with that. And I like that he is against religion rather than trying to be like, oh, well, we should accept all religions. I disagree very strongly with the way that he is saying that reality is inherently unknowable, and that the heart is deeper than the mind, and that, no, that's the problem that we got into today. If you think the heart is deeper, why do you think that we had religions that are killing each other and fighting each other? Because they were guided by the heart. I feel the love of Jesus in my heart, and I feel that all infidels should be killed. Or I feel that Allah is, or I feel that, Buddha is, or I feel that you have all these different religions that feel that their religion is the right religion. If we want a new system, it is not going to be based on feeling, because that's how we get crazy religions that kill each other. Now, that's not saying that feeling is not important. Feeling is incredibly important. Experience is incredibly important. It makes life worth living. We experience love, we experience friendship, we experience exhilarating emotions, we experience sex, we experience the highs and the lows that make the highs worth it. All that's fantastic. But that's just a different category than knowledge. Knowledge is how we structure and order our lives. Knowledge is how we move forward and unite the world together. Reason and knowledge is what gets everyone on the same page. Feeling and emotion, that's what divides people. I love my family more than this person, and I love, like even Hitler loved his dog. Love is not, I love my country more than your country. This is what leads to problem. There's nothing wrong with love, but not when it's guided. But when it's not guided by logic and reason, it's not. You can have, right? Say, I love my country, but reason tells me that we are all united in one system, so that even though I do love my country, I know that we're all in this together and we should unite together. So you see how you can still have experience and emotion, but it's guided by reason. When you don't, you go, I love my country, and fuck them, let's go kill them. Don't tread on me. That's the problem that we have, and reason is the way. So I really want to get across that, because I see a lot of people that move from mainstream religion and then fall into this like Osho crap. And it's crap. There's some good stuff in it. But don't take this crap. There's a lot of crap in it too. And also, when it says the fundamental idea is that basically saying that anyone that claims to know everything, like that's the problem. So I want to make it clear that the problem with religions is not that they pose that they know all. It's that they pose that they know all and have no rational information, no rational knowledge to back it up. It's just a faith-based claim. We know it all. Why? Because God said so, or this prophet said so, or this holy book said so. That's the problem. So like in Hyperionism, we are a system of knowledge. and you don't want to be. You see, Osho was fundamentally against knowledge, in that now when I say against knowledge, I mean that he prioritizes things like feeling in the heart. Again, nothing wrong with feeling in the heart, but like my example previously, I said, you want to be able to guide it, prioritize logic and reason to be able to, because look, you imagine, I'm sure you can imagine, look at all these people who have toxic emotions, people who get like super aggressive, or reason needs to be used to be able to organize one's feelings. You don't want to just do whatever you feel like doing. What kind of world would we have if everyone just did what they felt like doing? No, you have to behave in a way that is structured. You have to behave in a way where you can get along with others and live in a united society. So my point being here is that, first half I agree with, great. Second half, utter bullshit. And I don't have a problem saying that, because I am against all mainstream religions. This is way too close to religion. This is way, 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 way too close to religion. We don't want to replace religion with this bullshit, because we're just going to have the same, out of the frying pan and into the fire, something like that. That's what we're going to have here. So we want a system of knowledge to transcend religion. And this system of knowledge will be one that is guided by reason and prizes and values intuition, prizes and values emotion, prizes and values experiences, but guided by logic and reason, so that we can create a world in which we are increasing the quality of life for every individual and the collective. A beautiful world for everyone. And we can do that by being led by reason, but not the kind of reason that's used, like true reason, as in having a hyper awareness that understands what we are, where we are, why we are here, and is able to build that world where we are all united together. So I hope you see, anyway, again, please understand, right? If you're attracted to this stuff, please see the huge problems that lie in here, and why this is not the kind of stuff we want to replace religion with. It will lead to more issues. The first half, great. Second half, rubbish. So, when you read stuff like this, books by Osho and whatever, maybe you'll get some good stuff. Maybe there's some good stuff here or there, but be careful, because there's a lot of bullshit in there. And this is why I do not recommend people come. What do you think of this person? What do you think about this person? I don't recommend most of the stuff people come to me and ask me about. I don't recommend it, because most stuff is filled with bullshit that's all ultimately anti-knowledge. So, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this video, and consider liking, subscribing if you enjoy my work. Support on Patreon. We have lots of weekly secret live streams, hidden Discord server, the Citadel. Check out my channel for more videos. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who supports, especially Renaissance Fairy, Trent, Cassidy, Michael, Evie, Alan, Angela, Maria, Brian, Chubby Bunny, High Expectations Counseling, Jordy, Nicole, David, and Yisavet. If you want to support, it's right over here. The link will pop up. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Also, anyone that supports at the time of the publication of my new book will get their name in the credits.